Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another Coastal Virginia Chamber of Commerce civic engagement outreach. This time, a great guest and a friend of mine for over 25 years, Congressman Bobby Scott. I'm your host, JP Gotsey. Congressman Scott, last time I saw you, we were both a little wetter at the Phil Fest on Sunday, but it's good seeing you.
Good seeing you again. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm anxious for the election to be over. I think my mailman's anxious for that to happen too. But before we start, I did want to ask you an important question, a surprise. What are you going to do for Halloween?
Halloween, I'll probably be inside on Zoom somewhere. It's right before the election, so it's the last day. Halloween is the last day to early vote. It's Saturday. It's October 31st. So get out and early vote. Take advantage of your last day. This is the first day we could early vote in Virginia without an excuse. So if you want to early vote, you early vote. If you want to wait till November 3rd, wait till November 3rd. But I'll probably be running around encouraging people to get that vote in early.
And that's a good thing. We encourage all our listeners and members of the Coastal Virginia Chamber of Commerce. Again, coastalvachamber.com. We want you to be part of our team and become a member. Let's jump into this stimulus. Obviously, we're a big small business chamber, Congressman, as you know. That money was a lifesaver for a lot of them. Is some of that money going to be coming around hopefully sooner than later?
Hopefully, we passed several bills. We're able to come to overwhelming bipartisan agreement. One of them passed on a voice vote in the House. I mean, that was had such overwhelming support, and hopefully we can get to an agreement. Obviously, the money's running out. It was very effective. You remember the Chamber of Commerce would have noticed that when the pandemic started, the stock market collapsed. Went from about 2,700 the Dow to under 20,000,
Yeah,
and then came back because the support to the economy created by the CARES Act was sufficient. People got the stimulus checks. People that lost their jobs were getting the $600 extra, and people found that the economy was still okay, and the market went right on back up. That money has run out. And we don't want to be in a situation where the pandemic is still alive and well. We don't want to be in a position where we go back and the market starts cratering. And so everybody is trying to get back to continue the programs. Now, the House passed a continuation back in May. The administration, the Senate hadn't done anything yet. The administration has just gotten on board and is beginning to seriously negotiate. And a lot of this is not just the money, it's the policy. I chair the Education and Labor Committee, and one of the things I've been looking at is workplace safety. And OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA does not have today an enforceable standard to protect workers against COVID-19. Now, Virginia went ahead and promulgated some regulations. I mean, they're not big deals. Train your workers, have masking, a little separation. Things that can be very effective to protect people. But OSHA has no enforceable standard. That's after everything that's happened in nursing homes and prisons and grocery stores and meatpacking plants, healthcare, no enforceable standard. And we're trying to get them to promulgate a standard, and that's part of the language. The language that they've offered is so weak that it's actually endangers the worker, makes them more at risk because it's not even as strong as doing nothing. And so when you talk about the money, people say, well, they're not that far apart. Well, that's true. But the language, underlying language, also has to be negotiated. And that's why people are wondering whether this can happen before the election. Once you come to an agreement on all the money and all the language, you have to draft a bill. That takes a couple of days. Then you got to get Congress back. The House has to pass it, and then the Senate has to pass it.
right.
Then the president has to sign it. Having that happen before the election, I think, is I'm pessimistic. But right after the election, it could happen. and the negotiations are still going on. So we
Isn't
can come to
that-
an agreement.
It seems like what I read in the paper, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt, but Congressman, it's the secretary and Nancy Pelosi, the speaker. It seems like those are the ones that are actually doing the layman's or the yeoman's work on that. Is that correct?
That's right. And those are the two that had the CARES Act, the CARES supplement, the Families First. Those are the ones that agreed. People talk about who's not talking to who. As long as the legislative branch is talking to the executive branch and they got good communications and they're working together, they're serious about negotiating. And if they come to an agreement, I think everything else will fall into place. And they're both serious, but there are some language differences in policies, in education. Where does the money go? There was one back and forth about $10 billion in the agricultural space. And the question was asked, well, what is the money for? And the answer was at the secretary's discretion. You got to be kidding. A $10 billion slush fund? No. We need some language. And
let me have a part of that action, Congressman.
We passed legislation that had some military construction projects right here in Hampton Roads. And because the language wasn't nailed down, some of that money's gone to the border wall in the Mexican border. You got to make sure it's nailed down to make sure the money's going where you want it to go.
That part, the last bill that was passed, I think, regardless of what party, Democrat, Republican, conservative, or liberal, I mean, there was money in that bill for the Kennedy Center, for the performing arts, and some other ones. Now, somebody wrote that language in there, Congressman, and they ought to be held accountable for that. That's just tomfoolery.
Well, the Kennedy Center is a congressionally created agency that has has a lot of revenue by virtue of the plays and performances that are going on. They haven't had a performance in 6 months.
No.
And so what's the alternative?
Well, why wouldn't they just participate like any other small business that they participated and got the grants and the stimulus money versus having a separate pocket of money set aside just for them? It just seemed to leave a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth.
People look through a multi-trillion-dollar bill and went past the 100 million to tens of millions and went all down to the few million and have criticized the multi-trillion-dollar bill because of something that is a rounding error on a rounding error, and they've criticized it. I'm sure in every appropriations bill you can find some stuff, but overall, that legislation, when it came together, saved the economy. And people if they want to criticize it, they ought to criticize the whole thing.
I got
criticize the stock market going from 27,000 to 18,000 and then back up to 27,000 because of the CARES bill. Criticize the market going up 50%. Criticize that part. Criticize the fact that people unemployed are able to pay their rent. Criticize that part.
It was the biggest increase in the market, which is what my background is, as you know, ever in the history of the market. That quickly, Congressman Bobby Scott's with us here on the Coastal Virginia Chamber of Commerce. I'm your host, JP Gus Godsey. In the few minutes we have left, let's talk about the election. We have two big amendments that are coming up for the redistricting, which I'd love to be appointed to that if that passes. And then the
you can't get appointed.
disabled.
Well, that's the problem with it. How are you going to get appointed? Do you know how you get appointed?
I'd ask an elected official to appoint me.
Not an elected official, 4 elected officials.
Well, then that's what I guess I'd have to do. You're against it, I guess.
You can't describe the legislation and keep a straight face. Let me tell you, okay, you got this, they try to pass it off as an independent commission. There are 8 legislators. You have the lead Democrat and Republican in the House of Delegates, State Senate, 4 legislators. Those 4 legislative leaders appoint 2 each legislators to the commission. That's 8. So half of it are legislators appointed by legislative leaders. The other half are so-called citizen members. I say so-called because a group of judges picked one each by the legislative leaders. Each legislative leader picks their judge. They have a 5th tiebreaker. Okay, the judges select the citizens. As that commercial goes, but wait, there's more. They have to pick off a list of nominees from the legislative leaders. So the legislative leaders pick their political friends, put them on a list, and the judges pontificate which one of these party hacks get to be on the commission. That's your commission. Okay, now
is it better than what we have now?
If
a lot of people say.
If the whole thing is you can't trust legislators to do this thing, you create a commission where it's half legislators and half nominees of legislators. Now, there's more. To pass a bill, you need such a legislative, say the House of Delegates plan. If 2 delegates on the plan out of 4 vote no, the plan is dead, regardless of what the rest of the commission does. 14-2, but the 2 delegates, you didn't take care of their friends, it's dead. Okay, or the 2 Democrats, you didn't take care of their friends, it's dead. Now, how do you get all of the Democrats and all of the Republicans supporting the same bill? You have a self-serving incumbency protection plan where everybody's happy. You're guaranteed a self-serve, not the people are happy, not voting rights are happy, the legislators are happy. Now you said, is it better than anything else? No, if this thing is defeated, you can create a real citizen commission. The legislature by statute can create a legislative commission, or the governor can by executive order create a commission and promise not to sign a bill that doesn't come through a real independent commission. And if you think you've heard that idea before, you have, because that's what Ralph Northam promised when he was running for governor. All he's got to do is do what he says. You defeat the amendment, he can create a commission, and you have an independent commission where you have a chance of getting appointed to it because you're a citizen, knowledgeable of the process, and somebody with a reputation in the community. You might get picked, but you're not going to. You would only get picked under this thing if one of the legislative leaders, the Speaker of the House, or the minority leader, the Republican leader of the House of Delegates, or the President pro tem, or the Republican leader of the Senate, one of those 4 got to pick you. Otherwise,
yeah, move. I got you. We're going to run out of time. What about that other one? Just very briefly.
I think it's a good idea. People say, well, you're eroding the tax base, but this is a peculiar thing because it's personal property for disabled, 100% disabled veterans. It's unique because it's property tax relief. They're the ones that have to have the more expensive vehicles because most of them are wheelchair accessible. And so They get double hit. Not only are they disabled, but they have to have more expensive equipment that gets taxed at a higher, because it's more expensive, they got to pay more. And that's not right. If these people are disabled, give them a break.
I also heard yesterday, this was discussed on the radio, that it's a very small portion of people that are 100% disabled. A lot of people are 80 and 90%. So the effect to the tax base is going to be very minimal. In the few minutes we have left, again, Congressman Bobby Scott, anything that people are passionate about that are speaking to you about on Sunday at the Philp Fest, any people that just said, this is my main issue that you're hearing here 6 days before the election?
Well, one of the most important things so far is healthcare, particularly with the appointment of the Supreme Court nominee was confirmed, is now on the court. When Chief Justice Roberts cast the tie-breaking vote to preserve the Affordable Care Act, she went on public record to criticize that vote, which suggests that she would have been on the other side. The Affordable Care Act would have been eliminated. There is a case coming up, and this is why they had to rush right after the election, the week after the election, where the trial court found that the entire Affordable Care Act was unconstitutional. That means no protection for pre-existing conditions. Those that go on the marketplace and get tax credits to make it affordable, nothing there. Medicaid expansion, 400 and some thousand people in Virginia get coverage through Medicaid expansion, nothing there. Caps on what the insurance company has to pay. Children leaving the children's hospital at the King's Daughters, some of them had already run through their lifetime benefits before they went home. Women were paying more than men. All of that protection with those with pre-existing conditions, all of that will evaporate if the trial court ruling is sustained in the Supreme Court. If that happens, the focus will be on what happened the week before during the election, because if the right people are elected, whatever damage the Supreme Court does to your health care, it can be corrected. But if the Senate stays like it is, or if President Trump is reelected, you know, by virtue of the fact that they have supported legislation undermining your pre-existing conditions, that they passed a bill in the House where the CBO said if that thing became law, costs would go up 20% the first year, 20-some million fewer people would have insurance. The insurance you get because they don't have minimum benefits, probably worse than what you already have. And those with pre-existing conditions will see those protections erode. That bill actually passed. They do not have a plan to protect people with pre-existing conditions. They say so. They also said they wouldn't fill a vacancy in the Supreme Court in an election year. They said so, but they have supported legislation that sabotages your pre-existing conditions protection, and they do not have a plan. The fact that they filled the vacancy when they said they wouldn't says that the Republicans in the Senate, their word is not good. You can't believe them.
You got the last word, Congressman Bobby Scott. We got 6 days to election. Gary Byler wanted to be on with us, and Ron Villanueva. They send their best wishes and said that we're going to, 3 of us drive up there after the first of the year if you're reelected and take you out to dinner in Washington. How's that sound?
That sounds good to me. But you
look
can't. But
forward
I
to
gotta
doing
pay for. I gotta pay for my own meal. But I'll go out with you.
That's good enough deal. Bobby Scott, your website. Close us out with that.
BobbyScott.house.gov. Bobby Scott, all one word. .house HOUSE.gov. That's my official website.
You've always been a good friend of mine, good friend of the chamber. We wish you all the best in the next 6 days. And if you're reelected, continue doing good work for the people of Hampton Roads.
JP,
Thanks
it's good
so
to
much.
be with you. All right.
Congressman Bobby Scott here on the Coastal Virginia Chamber of Commerce. I'm your host, JP Guscozzi. We'll see you next time. Thanks to Gary Byler, Ron Villanueva, and our tech guy, Max. Till next time, thanks.